he called me and taken the uh, this link from me, and he has shown the interest. He said that particularly I wanted to join this seminar. So it's a really proud moment for Pimpri-Chinchwad Akodi chapter actually. Mohanty sir, welcome to this CEP.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, please send the
So
link to me once again on the WhatsApp. The link that you had sent was probably wrong. Some people are calling me saying that they are not able to join, sir.
So Gupta sir,
Instead of,
I will send
yeah,
it to you on your WhatsApp.
yeah, yeah.
Let Pradeep sir continue
Yes,
the.
instead of KBR, it has to be XBR probably.
Yes.
So that correction you please make and send it to me. Some more people would like to join.
okay. So I would like to welcome all the members for this different topic because the costing, accounting, and then IP professional, so on, all the subjects we are covering, all are very important for us. But today's topic is something different, which will put forth some of the new thought process for all the members and will be definitely useful. So, thank you, Gupta sir, for accepting our invitation. And once again, I would like to welcome all the members, and I would like to hand over the proceedings to Sagar for further introduction and further this program. And over to you, Sagar.
Thank you, Pradeep sir. Thanks for setting up uh, setting up agenda and quorum for this webinar. So, welcome and a very good evening to all the members who has joined us on this Fridays, on this Saturday's evening for the webinar on the integrated reporting beyond the financial numbers. So, our guest for the today's webinar is a CMA, Dr. Sunil Gupta sir. So, all of us have worked with Sunil Gupta sir in past or presently. Few of you are working with Gupta sir. So first, I would like to tell Sunil Gupta sir is a is a veteran from the finance industry. So he has worked across various areas of the in the finance. So today, definitely, I must guarantee you that at the end of seminar, definitely we will carry some good thoughts, some good experience of the Sunil Gupta sir, and definitely we can implement his experience in our field as well. So uh, I think there is no need of introduction to Gupta sir, but as a formality, I will once again introduce Gupta sir because Pradeep sir already said like the one line Pradeep sir said like he has getting a call from the various members and they wants to join this webinar. So
Yeah.
this one line already tells us uh, about the profile and the rapport Sunil Gupta sir is carrying across the industry. So first, I would like to start with the introduction of the Gupta sir. So Gupta sir has completed the and he is a gold medalist from the INCOM. He is also a fellow member of the CS and CMA Institute. He has done the PhD in corporate governance. So team, so members, you need to just hold on your breath for next 5 minutes because Gupta sir carries such a long yeah, and they need such a long introduction. So they need in the sense they have worked in a various industries. So just hold on your breath. So I'll need at least next 5 minutes to introduce Gupta sir. So Gupta sir is a formerly MD and CEO of the Institute of the Cost and Management Accountant. He was a MD and CEO for the Insolvency Professional Agency. Currently, he is a MD of the RVO Institute of Cost Accountants of India. He has a total 40. He has more than 40 years of experience from the corporate and in the corporate and academic area. He is a group CEO of AISP. He is a director of the PhD Chamber of the Commerce. He is a group company secretary and head of the legal and internal audit, finance, HR in various listed companies. He has also he is also guiding the five scholars who are pursuing the PhD. He has also acted as a independent director in the listed companies. He is a consulting editor in the Ramaiya on Companies Act in the 2014 edition. He was a editor-in-chief for the Truth and Youth Law Journal. He is a paper setter and examiner for various professional institutes. He has reviewed course material from the ICMI, ICI, and ICSI for various papers and courses. He has written over 200 articles which have been published in various journals. He have conducted several training programs in finance, corporate laws, governance, and he is also visiting faculty at various business schools and the other institutions. He is a member of the Standards Recognition Board of the IVSC. He is a member, so he designated as a member in a various industry, like he worked in a capital market committee of the PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He also acted as a member in the corporate affairs committee of the PhD Chamber of the Commerce and Industry. And again, in the next year, he has also member. He was also member of the Bank and Finance Committee of the PhD Chamber of Commerce Industry. He had various and addressed large number of the national and international conferences. And today we are lucky, like today Gupta sir is going to again take one more seminar for our Pimpri Rakodi chapter. So this is a honor for us. He has released already, along with this corporate profile and along with this financial industries. Gupta sir has also has a liking in the music and the songs. So he has released a music albums on the songs and bhajans on the flute. So what I'll say, like, along with the management of all these creating a rapport in the finance industry, Gupta sir has also kept his hobby, and that is a very good to know that, like, he in his hobby he has reached to a certain level, like he has released the musical album. So it was nice to see these Gupta sir. Definitely after this seminar I will call you and I'll get the one or two music album from you,
Sure.
which you have played on the flute.
Sure, sir.
So it is an honor for me to introduce you for this today's webinar. So members, in the next 2 hours we will touch on the topic of the integrated reporting beyond the financial numbers. So all of us know the financial numbers, like how the balance sheet, how the profit and loss account, how all of us know, because all of us are from the same background, and all of us know like how this financial statement works. But in the today's webinar, Sunil Gupta sir is going to take us far beyond those things. Like they are going to take a two step ahead of what we are seeing right now, and definitely he is going to change our vision, like how to see the all those statement, and like how to read all those things beyond the financial numbers only. So, Gupta sir, I just want to start with a simple question.
Sure.
I hope everyone in your family, in your friends,
Yeah.
and the colleagues in the office are safe and sounding
Absolutely.
safe from getting you through this pandemic period.
Thank
So I
you.
hope
Thank
all of
you.
you are good, and your all of you, your family members, your colleagues, and all those are doing good in this pandemic
Thank you, sir.
situation.
Thank you, sir.
So over to you, Gupta sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Good
you, sir.
evening and welcome, distinguished guests, for this webinar on integrated reporting, especially past President Mohanty sir. I've had the privilege of working with him for a brief period, and it was really very, very learning and enjoyable time that I spent in my career working with him during his tenure of presidentship of the institute. Welcome, sir. Of course, as you rightly said, financial reporting is what we are all already aware about, that it consists of creating an annual report, which is a bunch of various statements put together in the form of income statement, the balance sheet, the director's report, the management and discussion analysis, the auditor's report, and of course the financials with various respected notes. But the point is, does it really convey all that what the stakeholders would like to know? That's the annual report that we have, which is kind of a historical, because it provides you financial data for the year ended as on 31st of March of a particular year. Does it provide you anything beyond those numbers? I would straightaway like to start my presentation by giving a real life example of the recent IPO which hit the stock market or the capital market, that's Zomato. What happened? Zomato is a startup, neither in the food manufacturing, nor in the food processing, and neither in the food warehousing business. They only have people riding bikes on the streets and delivering food from one person to another person, from a shop, from a hotel to the other person. That's the kind of business they are doing. They have a top line of something like 2,700 crores. But at the same time, their losses are to the tune of 2,300 crores. 2,700 crores is the top line turnover, and 2,300 crores is the loss that the company is incurring. But the IPO was priced within a price range of 72-75, and it has been oversubscribed by 38 times. There was huge interest among the investors of investing money in this hugely loss-making company, bleeding like anything. If you look at the financials, nobody would like to touch this company at such a high price. Analysts have done the calculation based upon their business model, based upon whatever financial projections that the company has given, based upon whatever number of customers they have as of now. And all of these analysts think that the price should not have been more than 40 rupees, whereas the company has been able to sell it well beyond 70. That's the crux of the matter. That means our financial reporting system, in terms of compiling a beautiful annual report every year on a glossy paper, and some of the companies spend a huge amount of money in coming out with these annual reports, because the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India also gives award, one for the corporate sectors and one for the PSUs for the best published annual report of a particular year. And there is a fight, there is a competition going on. Who will prepare the best annual report in terms of the kind of paper that you use, the kind of graphics that you use, the kind of information that you use, but mostly, unfortunately, the information is just about historical. What you're talking about is what has happened in the company in the last 12 months, and that too, not in terms of any other aspect, but only in terms of financial numbers. But then the story of the company goes beyond numbers. The story of the company, or the history, evolution, or growth of the company, sustenance of the company cannot just be captured in terms of numbers that we talk about today. This is something beyond that. That's where I would like to pick the thread from. I would like to discuss integrated reporting beyond financial numbers. And this is during the presidentship of Mr. Mohanty, our CMA, Dr. Mohanty, who has joined us today. It's my pleasure. It was during his tenure that an international SAFA conference took place in Sri Lanka, where he was very, very kind enough to take me along as a speaker. And I spoke there in 2013 on integrated reporting. That was the first time when I myself was initiated into this particular topic. But that day and today, it's almost over 8 years, I have published quite a few articles, quite a few research papers in this area in both national and international journals. I have always kept my interest kindling in this particular area of corporate reporting, because we are today living in 21st century. In 21st century, we can't apply 20th century corporate reporting mechanism. Our architecture of corporate reporting has to change, and that change is what we are going to talk about today, and that is commonly referred to as the integrated reporting. Just give me a minute, please. Let me share my presentation on the screen. So, integrated reporting beyond financial numbers. Corporate reporting is an essential means by which companies communicate with investors as part of their accountability and stewardship obligations. You know, there is a well-known and commonly accepted agency theory. Who are the real owners of the company? all the stakeholders, all the shareholders are the real owners of the company. But being very, very large in number and being widely spread across geographies, it's not possible for them to be able to manage, monitor, and control the operations of the corporate entity. Thus, what is the way out? They appoint agents on their behalf to manage the affairs of the company, and these people are technically called the directors, individually and collectively as the board of directors. Now, these board of directors have a lot of powers given to them by the shareholders for running of the corporate venture, but at the same time, with power comes accountability and responsibility. So they have a lot of accountability and stewardship obligations which they must fulfill while carrying on the task of running the affairs of the corporate entity so as to maintain growth, so as to sustain the operations of the company, and so as to create value for the stakeholders. But the current financial reporting model was developed way back in 1930s. The current model that we look at, I told you, what does an annual report comprise of? It comprises of profit and loss account, income statement, you have the balance sheet, you have the cash flow statement, you have notes to accounts, and then you have accounting policies, you have management and discussion analysis, you have director's report, you have auditor's report. But all this talks about what has happened in the company over the period of last 12 months. But as investors, it is equally important for me to know not only what happened in the past 12 months, but also what is likely to happen, perception, expectations, or at least future projections with regard to next 12 months, and why only 12 months, maybe for next 3 years or so that I can take a conscious and a rational decision to stay invested in the company, or I may decide to pull my money out and get away from this company if I find that this company might have done well in the past 3 or 5 years, but past performance of the company is no guarantee of its continuing to perform at the same level unless I know the projected figures, unless I know the vision of the management, which is not disclosed in the historical annual report. It is difficult for the investors to be able to decide whether to stay put in the company or whether to withdraw or maybe to put in more money into the company in view of its better future potential. Therefore, what I'm talking about is the present way of corporate reporting, which is mandated by the laws of all the countries. Every year you have to prepare an annual report, but it's only a backward looking review of performance and does not provide enough relevant information for decision making for these stakeholders. The world is changing. All of you would agree with me. And the world is changing very, very dynamically. I'm not only talking about the last 2 years, where the world has dramatically changed on account of COVID-19 pandemic situation, which is a challenge for the whole humanity. It has impacted lives. It has impacted livelihood. It has impacted lives of the firms. But even before or even without COVID-19 pandemic situation, the kind of changes that we have seen in this world over the period of last about 2 or 3 decades, these have been very, very deep rooted and these have been very, very significant. We have seen very, very significant changes taking place in the world over the period of last about 2 or 3 decades. If we talk about India, LPG, that is the Big Bang reforms, liberalization, privatization, globalization, it started happening in India with opening up of Indian economy in 1990-91. It's been 30 years now. And ever since then, many of the businesses have been liberalized. Many of the government businesses have been either partially or fully privatized, and many of the world's companies are now positioning themselves in India, as well as at the same time, Indian companies are making investment in the outside world. There is a flow of FDI, foreign direct investment happening both inbound and outbound from India and into India, and that's the result of globalization which has taken place. Now, in this changing world, we are basically living in a world which is VUCA. It's an acronym. I'm sure all of you are aware about the acronym and its full form, where V stands for vulnerability, U stands for uncertainty, C stands for complexity, and A stands for ambiguity. It's a VUCA world. Today, the world that we are living in is highly vulnerable, very, very uncertain, hugely complex, and very, very ambiguous. In this business scenario, with people no longer looking for blind globalization, the world has gone back to the practice of protectionism tendencies which are hitting the world market, especially after the financial crisis of 2007 2008. The mindset of the people of the world has changed. There is no blind race towards globalization anymore. Of course, countries have to remain interconnected. There has to be global trade taking place in the marketplace, but at the same time, the blind race to globalization is no longer there, whereas countries are now trying to protect their own national interest. That has become a priority ever since 2010, 2011, after the world emerged from the financial crisis or the subprime crisis or the so-called mortgage crisis that hit the world market in 2007, 2008, which led to the collapse of Lehman Brothers. In this VUCA world, we have very, very disruptive business models. The kind of businesses that we see around us, not only in India but across the world, the kind of businesses that we see and the kind of business models that they adopt, these are very, very disruptive. These are hugely disruptive. To give a few examples, we live in a world where the world's largest travel car company does not own a single car of their own. They have not even a single car sitting on the balance sheet of the company, but this is, yes, the world's largest travel car company. And we know the answer. The answer is Uber. We live in a world where the world's largest travel lodging company does not own a single hotel room of their own. That's Airbnb. We live in a world where the world's largest retailer does not have a single brick and mortar store. Entire business is based upon e-commerce and entire business is online digitalized. The answer is Amazon. These are very, very disruptive business models that were kind of unheard of till about a few decades back, but these are the realities of today. India today is only second in the world after Silicon Valley in terms of number of startups happening here. But the culture and the mindset is entirely different from that prevailing in Silicon Valley and that prevailing in India. In Silicon Valley, if someone gets into a startup and he fails, he tries his hands on another startup and he again fails, well, he's taken as a great guy. Someone who has failed in 2 startups or 3 startups in Silicon Valley is treated as a great guy. People say, no, he has not failed. He has not been a failure. Actually, he has amassed and collected and accumulated huge experience. So he's a very, very experienced person, gem of a person. He's very highly rewarded in the marketplace. In India, if someone has tried his hands in one of the startups and unfortunately he fails, and he tries his hands in another startup, he again fails, and now if he wants to get back to corporate sector as in employment, it is very, very difficult for him to find a job, because in India, failure in startups, failure in new business ventures is taken as kind of a stigma. It's taken as kind of a stigma. Whereas in Silicon Valley, people are treated as great guys because they would have accumulated a lot of experience while failing to scale up or sustain their businesses. That's the difference in the mindset of the people in the US, across the world, and that of India. But otherwise, in terms of numbers, India today is ranking number 2 in the world after Silicon Valley in terms of number of startups which are mushrooming in the Indian space. That's a different story. That only about 5 to 7% of the startups are able to sustain in the marketplace for a period of over 3 years. That's what the research says. You have 100 startups starting up in 1 year, you will find only 5 or 7 startups sustaining in the market, staying there in the market after 3 years. Because that's what is the very nature of the kind of risk and uncertainty involved in the startups that are happening in the marketplace. Now, when you look at the financials of these companies, I gave you example of Zomato, 2,700 top line, 2,300 crores loss. Now, on what basis can you justify the share price to be somewhere in the range of over 70? It should not have been more than 35, 40 at best. But then, many of these businesses have profitless turnover. They probably have a great top line, but end of the day, there's no profit. Or many of these businesses have cashless profit. They might even have a good enough bottom line, very good amount of profit, but then there's no liquidity, there is no cash. But when you look at the valuation of these companies, wow, skyrocketing, soaring very, very high. That brings us to the discussion of today's topic, integrated reporting beyond financial numbers, that in today's marketplace, which is hugely disruptive, which is very, very vulnerable, complex, uncertain, and ambiguous, profit is no longer the only criterion of judging the worth of a company. Profitability is not the only criteria. Of course, it remains important as one of the dimensions. You can't do away with the concept of profit or profitability, but it's not the sole criterion of judging the performance of the company over a period of time. Even EVA is no longer economic value added. That's ROCE minus WACC. How do you calculate economic value added? That's return on capital employed minus weighted average cost of capital. So EVA is ROCE minus WACC. Even EVA, which was supposed to be kind of an improvement in terms of measuring the performance of a corporate entity, no longer valid. What is the key today in the minds of the investors is the company able to create value for the stakeholders or not? Value creation is the mantra today. Is the company able to create value for the stakeholders? Is the company able to preserve that value or not? And is the company able to enhance that value going forward on a sustainable basis or not? That's the crux as to whether the company is a good company, growing company, acceptable to the investors with huge investor interest, or it's a company which investors probably would like to forget about. So creation of value, preservation of value, and sustaining value over a period of time is the mantra or is the challenge today for anyone in the marketplace as of now. You would have noticed, practically looking at numbers, that a company with a balance sheet size of just about, say, 100 crores might have a valuation of 500 crores. How is that possible? The balance sheet size is just about 100 crores, but the valuation of the company could be 5 times or multiple of 5 with regard to total size of the balance sheet. That's because in the balance sheet, you show only the tangible assets. In the balance sheet, you show only the financial capital. But there is a world beyond financial capital. I'm going to talk about more about that a little later during my presentation, which is all part of the concept of integrated accounting. But financial capital is only one of the type of capital. There are many other different types of capitals which help a business to grow, sustain, and evolve in the marketplace as a new entity, and thus provide huge value to the stakeholders over a period of time. That's where the change in corporate reporting is required at this point. So the world has changed on account of it becoming a VUCA world, on account of there being very, very disruptive business models which have emerged in the marketplace. Therefore, the corporate reporting must also change. You can't keep the same model of corporate reporting. When the world has changed, you have to change the reporting format, you have to change the reporting structure and the reporting architecture also, so as to be in tune with the kind of changes which are witnessed in the marketplace, so as to provide to the investors right, timely, and relevant information, so as to enable them to make appropriate decisions with regard to their investment in a given company. some of the emerging changes which are taking place in the business environment. Globalization, we talked about. Global economic power is shifting. US, China, I think there is a power change, power balance change which is happening across the world. We have disruptive business models we talked about. There is a growing middle class. You have that pyramid. People at the bottom of the pyramid, people at the middle, people at the top. It's a pyramid. So that's what we have. But the middle today is bulging like anything. Many of the people across geographies, across demographics, they are moving from the level of the bottom of the pyramid onto the middle level. And that increases consumer spending power there, and that increases their ability to be able to spend money on consumption. And that is what is driving the business today across the world. There is increased expectations on the part of the investors or the stakeholders with regard to transparency and accountability. They want businesses to be transparent. Whatever is happening in the business, good, bad, whatever, the company must transparently make that information available to all the investors. And company must also be held accountable for good as well as for bad. If there is a good performance, pat on the back for the directors. But if there is a bad performance, well, maybe their bonuses need to be cut. Maybe some heads need to be turned. Maybe some people will have to leave the job. Appropriate action needs to be taken because the expectations of the stakeholders in the marketplace today have increased dramatically. There is a lot of resource scarcity in the marketplace. Land is limited. Labor is limited, capital is limited, environment, whatever environment is given to us, we got to be conscious and careful that we leave the planet as we got it from our forefathers. We must leave it in the same shape for the future generations. So there is a huge impact on the environmental protection, which is also part of the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN. Sustainable Development Goals 2030 of the UN talks about environmental protection as one of the important corporate social responsibilities. There is high volatile and dynamic business scenario, and of course, environmental concerns we have talked about. Now, this is the background or the premise in which the businesses are being conducted today, or the corporate entities are operating, and they are compiling annual reports as per the mandates provided by the laws and legislations of the various countries. But remember, things are changing so very dramatically. The corporate world is so very turbulent. We must remember, living in a 21st century, which calls for a different kind of corporate reporting, not the kind that we are having right now in terms of historical reporting or looking back what happened in the past 12 months. What is more important today is looking ahead, what is likely to happen in the next 12 months, next 3 years, next 5 years. So, business reporting or corporate reporting must respond to communicate two important to fail issues. That means the business reporting and a corporate reporting architecture, it must change in line with the requirements and expectations of the investors and stakeholders, as well as in tune with the kind of architecture and the structure of businesses we are finding in the marketplace today. The current reporting model is like looking in the rear view mirror, when in fact the road ahead is very turbulent and there are huge impacts of that turbulence on the company and society and the environment. It is not necessarily the volume of information, but the lack of a comprehensive story, which is where improvements in corporate reporting are needed. We somehow tend to believe that if the annual report is 200 pages strong, with huge statistical numbers, with huge kind of data analysis, I think that's the kind of report which, if printed on a glossy paper, printed with various kinds of beautiful diagrams and all that, that's the kind of report which gets good recognition from the Institute of Chartered Accountants when they look at the annual report for giving the award. But believe me, numbers are not the end of the story. Numbers are only the beginning of the story. Numbers are not the end, which provide all kinds of information which stakeholders would like to know or get to know about the company. Actually, by looking at the numbers, you have to weave a story around them. Your story about the corporate functioning has to be weaved around those numbers. You have to connect the dots. In other words, what I'm talking about is you got to connect the dots between tangible and intangible assets, between different kinds of capital, between financial and non-financial information, which might be very, very critical for a particular company, but which does not find a place in your annual report in either the main financial statements or the notes to the account. So there is a lack of a comprehensive story as of now. And unless you know the story fully, you can't really make a sense out of how the company is doing, how the business is going, what is likely to be the future of the business. You just can't really make out much out of it because you have a reporting system as of now which looks at the back, the past, and not what is going to be the position of the company in future. Investors today are demanding greater transparency around strategy. They would like to know what is the strategy of the company, what is the business model of the company, and what are the risks associated with a particular company. In the period of last 2 years, on account of the unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic situations, many of the businesses have had to close down. Many businesses are facing a slowdown. But yes, of course, there are certain sectors where many of the businesses have also benefited from the COVID-19 pandemic situation. Now, the businesses which have been able to keep their head above the water have been those businesses which had a very, very resilient business model. Resilient business model. That is, come whatever may be, but we are prepared. Our business model is such that come whatever may be, maybe any other kind of pandemic or COVID-19 or Delta variant or whatever, but we are there. We are prepared to face the world. We are prepared to face the turbulence because of the resilient business model. Investors need the information about what management thinks of the business in the context of its key performance indicators. Are you going to be only satisfied with customer satisfaction? I don't think this model works anymore. Even though marketing textbooks, even the best of the book by Philip Kotler, right now only talks about customer satisfaction, which is providing satisfaction to a customer as per his expectations. But the world has moved beyond customer expectation. Today we are looking at customer delight. Customer delight is providing satisfaction to the customer beyond his expectation. That means the performance indicators or the performance matrices have changed. They are changing day by day. No longer profit used to be a very, very good indicator of the value of the business, profitability, ROCE, return on capital employed, economic value added, balance scorecard. They used to be very, very important indicators of the performance of a business over a period of time. But over a period of time, these performance matrices or indicators have also changed. The investors of today are looking at ESG information, environmental, social governance. Of course, they are interested in numbers, yes, but not only numbers. They want to go beyond the numbers. Beyond the numbers in terms of how is the company's operations impacting the environment? How is the company operations impacting society? And how is the company actually being governed? Governance becomes important. Societal impact has become important. Environmental impact has become important besides the financial performance. That's what shows that the investor preferences or investor expectations with regard to the information conveyed by the annual report are changing. What is integrated reporting? With this kind of a background, we are now ready to plunge into the main topic, what integrated reporting is all about and how do we actually go about implementing that in our businesses. Integrated reporting provides story of the business. That involves thinking, that involves planning, and then that involves reporting. First, it involves integrated thinking. Integrated reporting will come later. You will prepare a report later. First, you have to undergo and change your mindset. You got to look at the business not in terms of silos, not in terms of different divisions, department functions, but actually your thinking has to be integrated. Integrated thinking is the starting point for the business. You got to think in an integrated manner. What is the vision of the business? What is the strategy to achieve that? What are the objectives on a short-term basis? And how does your vision, strategy, and objectives fit into the social and environmental contexts? Then, integrated thinking leads to your planning of the business. How do you propose to carry on the business? How do you propose to plan the conduct of your operation of businesses going forward? And therefore, this also is an important factor to be looked at. And then what becomes important is that the story of the business is required to be importantly articulated. So the story of the business is crafted by integrated thinking, by planning based upon your integrated thinking, and then it also depends upon the kind of report that you prepare. That also becomes important with a view to looking at how your business is doing at a given point of time based upon the principles of integrated reporting. Integrated reporting demonstrates the linkage between an organization's strategy, governance, and financial performance, and the social, environmental, and economic context within which it operates. So actually, there are 6 dots which are required to be connected when we look at an integrated report. There are 6 dots, and it's a complex mix of model. It's a matrix. First dot is organization strategy. Second dot is governance. Third lever is financial performance. Fourth lever is social context. Fifth is environmental context. Sixth is economic context. We got to match all these dots together. We got to connect all these dots together and then come out with some kind of a reporting system, which is then essentially going to provide to the stakeholders all the relevant information which is important for them to be able to make appropriate rational decisions whether to stay invested in the company or pull their money out, or maybe even to make more investment into the company. You got to start with vision, mission, strategy, then come down to how your company is being governed, and the ultimate performance of the company, of course, will get reflected in terms of financial numbers. But at the same time, what is the context within which you are operating your company? The context is social, environmental, economic. What is the social impact of the business? What is the environmental impact of the business? And what is the economic impact of the business? That's what has got to be clearly brought out in the report, which is then known as the integrated. The development of integrated reporting is designed to enhance and consolidate existing reporting practices. I'm not saying, and the proponents of integrated reporting are not saying that we should do away with the historical annual report. No, we are only saying go beyond financial numbers. Provide some more non-financial information, strategy, governance, social impact, environmental impact, because investors of today, they would like to know all these beyond the financial numbers, which are in any case there in any annual report. So it does not seek to replace the existing corporate reporting framework. What we are saying is provide some more additional information to the stakeholders to move to a reporting framework or architecture that provides the information needed to assess organizational value in the 21st century. Things are so very, very fluid. Things are so very, very dynamic. We are living in a VUCA world with disruptive business models. The old corporate reporting model based on historical data is no longer going to work. We have to think ahead, and therefore, in addition to the information provided by a contemporary radical annual report, historical basis, we must now move to integrated report. So there is an authority known as IIRC, the International Integrated Reporting Council, based out of UK, which comprises of various companies across the world. They have various investors connected with them, various NGOs. They have standard setters, they have regulators, they have accounting practitioners. Many of these people form part of the IIRC. And here I would like to share with you that our immediate past president, CMA Dr. Balwinder Singh Ji, has been nominated to IIRC. He has been nominated to as a member of IIRC Council UK. It's a matter of pride for the CMA profession and for the institute that one of our past president, Dr. CMA Balwinder Singh Ji, is a member of IIRC, sir. What is the vision of IIRC? The Integrated International Reporting Council's vision is to align capital allocation. What do we want? In a rational world, we want that capital should flow to those companies which are able to make the best possible use of that capital or those funds. So capital allocation or capital will flow into those companies where the money can be judiciously, rationally used, not only for economic performance, but also keeping in mind the social and the environmental impact. That's the basic vision. Align capital allocation. That's the basic vision of IIRC. And with this, there will also have to be a change in the corporate behavior. The way we look at the companies, the way the management thinks, the way the board of directors think and behave, there has to be a change in their thinking, change in their idiosyncrasy, in their mindset, in their behavior, because they are not only looking for earning maximum profit. No, they are actually there as stewards, as protectors of the wealth which belongs to multiple stakeholders who are looking for information, both financial and non-financial, with a view to assessing the performance of a company going forward. IIRC's vision is also to provide financial stability and sustainable development. It is also in line with sustainable development goals of the World Bank. Integrated reporting concept is fully aligned with SDG 2030. How do we do that? Through the cycle of integrated reporting and integrated thinking. You're thinking as the controllers of the business, as the members of the board of directors, as the members of senior management of the company responsible for most rational, most judicious resource utilization architecture. You must start thinking in an integrated manner, not in silos. Always keep in mind ESG. Whatever decision you take in the boardroom, always try to first consider its environmental impact, its societal impact, and its governance impact, and everything that ultimately will reflect in financial numbers, the economic impact. That is what is called integrated thinking. Integrated reporting is helping businesses to think in an integrated manner. That means holistically about the company's strategy. What is strategy? Strategy is nothing but action plan from where you are to where you want to go, How would you go from where you are to where you want to go? That's what is called the strategy, the action plan for moving from point A to point B. But the point is, first you must be able to define point A, where you are right now, and point B, where you would like to be 1 year after, maybe 3 years after, maybe 5 years after, and that calls for a planning, a long-term planning or a vision. Integrated reporting helps in making informed decisions, because if a company is financially very, very strong, investors might be incentivized to put their money in that particular company. But there might be a case, and there are some real life stories of this particular kind, where there is a legal lawsuit filed against a company for degrading environment because of intoxic gases coming out or toxic gases coming out of the factory's plant. But this information is not made public by the company in the annual report. So people are fooled. People only look at the financial numbers and they make investment in the company, but they don't talk about the lawsuit being filed against the company, because the company's operations are hugely disrupting and negatively impacting the environment, and the case has been filed which doesn't get disclosed anywhere in the annual report. So in order to enable stakeholders to be able to make informed decisions, integrated reporting, that is financial as well as non-financial information, becomes very, very important. Manage key risks. Every company is exposed to various kinds of risks. You have market risk, you have technology risk, you have price risk, you have consumer risk, you have a whole lot of risks which are being faced by various businesses. How do you propose to manage those risks? And you must also share with all the stakeholders various risks that the company is facing. Even in India, as per Companies Act 2013 and the SEBI regulations, and also LODR, listing obligations and disclosure requirements of stock exchanges, listing agreement, every company, a listed company, is required to form a risk committee. Every company is required to have a risk policy. Even in India, it has started, because it's very important for the investors to know, will the company be able to survive going forward over the period of next about 20 years or not? And that depends upon what is the risk profile of the company, how is the company looking at managing those kind of risks, how is the company mitigating, monitoring those risks, and how is the company controlling those risks. That information is very critical for all the stakeholders with a view to making assessment about its future. So integrated reporting builds investor and stakeholder confidence. And when your stakeholders are more confident about the operations of the company, it obviously automatically also improves the future performance of it. Value is more than financial. I give you that example, that a company may have a balance sheet size of 100 crores, but maybe in terms of value, its value could be 500 crores, even 1,000 crores. This is also typically reflected here by the data from an international research journal, which shows that the value shown in the balance sheet is just a small percentage of the overall value of the company, whereas the brown bars out here reflect the intangible assets, and the bare bar here shows the tangible assets. The growing importance is being given to value creation through intangible assets. A company's intellectual capital, a company's technology, a company's connectedness with the consumers. How innovative is the company? How agile is the company? How flexible is the company? What is the strategy of the company? How resilient is the business model of the company? Where do you show these things in the financial accounts? Nowhere. You only look at tangible assets, you look at income expenditure, that's all about it. That is important, Baba. But you got to go beyond numbers and look at intangible property, intangible assets of the company, which play a very, very significant part. Almost 80% of the value of the company is derived from intangible assets. Just about 20-25% comes from the tangible assets or the balance sheet. So currently there is a reporting mismatch. Strategic issues, reporting content, strategic issues and the business value not connected. Forecasts and plans, you show forecasts and plans, but you don't indicate the implementation plans. You show the past performance, but you don't show business as usual or the business which is going to be there in the future. So currently there is a reporting mismatch between what is actually getting and going on in the company and what is actually being reported to the stakeholders. Integrated reporting is critical for a meaningful assessment of the long-term viability of the organization's business module and strategy. It is important for meeting the information needs of the stakeholders and also for, as we CMAs are very, very conscious about effective allocation of scarce resources. That's our expertise area. We know how to effectively allocate and optimize the utilization of scarce resources. Nobody knows better than us. That is what is supported and helped by the concept of integrated reporting. An integrated report should not only tell you numbers, that means just about 1/4 or 1/5 of the information about the company, but what about the balance 4/5 of the information? Financial statements reflect only or indicate only 25% of the indicators about company's performance. The balance 75%, 80% of the company's information is not reflected by the current reporting system or the financial statements. So an integrated reporting should tell us the whole story. What I'm trying to show here is zigzag puzzle, you know. This is the children's play with the zigzag puzzles, you know. So when you just have these jigsaw puzzles pieces lying here and there, unless you connect them together, unless you plug them together, unless you connect them together, you can't really see the growth curve, which is being reflected in the third box, which becomes possible only when you're looking at value creation, you're looking at strategic focus, your future orientation, and you connect everything together, then it shows you a complete story about the functioning of the company. That's what integrated report is always talked about. It's a story. The International Integrated Reporting Framework has 4 basic objectives: efficient allocation of capital. I'll come to that just now. Within the next 5 minutes, I'm coming to that. We are not only talking about financial capital, but in the IR framework and architecture, we actually talk about 5 or 6 different types of capital. I'll tell you all about that. Then cohesive approach to corporate reporting. That means integrated approach to corporate reporting. Don't only look at numbers. Numbers are not the end. Numbers are only the starting point. You got to weave a story around these numbers with a view to portraying true picture of the corporate performance. That's what integrated reporting actually does. Enhance the accountability. Those people who are acting as agents of the stakeholders, the managing director, the senior executives of the company, they must be held accountable for the performance of the company, not only in terms of economic parameters, but what impact the company's operations have on the society. What impact does the company's operations have on the environment? They are equally concerned with and must also be concerned with the economic, social, governance, and environmental framework within which the company operates. And everything has to be done by supporting a kind of a culture within the company which supports integrated thinking. Your thinking has to become integrated. So what is integrated reporting? A concise communication about how company would create value over time. Simple definition, simple concept. Concise word is there. A concise communication. I'm not saying prepare another 200-page report, just as you already have a 200-page corporate report, annual report. I'm not saying prepare another 200-page report about non-financial information. It has to be very, very concise, to the point. Concise communication about what? about how the company is going to create value over a period of time. So the financial reporting has to be clubbed together, integrated together, brought together with regard to the strategy, performance, and prospects. That's what is required to be, that's what is going to be important. How is integrated reporting different? In terms of thinking, when we prepare normal annual report, in the sense of the annual report, historical annual report that we have right now, the information is disconnected. You just show certain numbers with no background being provided. What was the strategy? To what extent were the company's strategy flexible? To what extent the company's strategy helped the company during the previous year? How do you propose to change your strategy in view of the dynamic situation prevailing in the market world? You just don't talk anything about that. But that's what happens in the case of integrated reporting. So from disconnected thinking, we move to integrated thinking. Financial capital, we move to different kinds of capital. Focus past and financial, we move to focus on past and future. And not only financial, but connected and strategic information. From short-term perspective, we move to short, medium, and long-term. From very few disclosures, which create kind of a distrust amongst the stakeholders, we move towards greater transparency. From rule-bound, annual report has to be prepared in a defined manner. Contents of director's report have been specified by SEBI. Contents of auditor's report specified by the auditor's report regulations. Contents of income statement and the balance sheet specified by the law. Everything is rule-bound. But when you prepare an integrated report, it is like a story. And every story has a different plot. And the writer of the story is free to adopt any kind of template, any kind of format, any kind of reporting structure by which he is able to give and provide relevant information. Annual report is very, very long and complex. But integrated reporting is supposed to be very, very concise, but material. Means significant facts are required to be captured in a very, very brief, concise manner. From paper-based to technology-based. Of course, now even in India, annual reports have been allowed. In fact, most of the companies have gone digital and they're preparing annual reports on soft copy form and sending it to various shareholders in soft copy form. It's happening even in India now. So historical annual report is paper-based. It used to be paper-based, but now, of course, we are moving towards technology-enabled corporate report. This is what I was talking about. In integrated reporting, we not only look at the financial capital that appears in the balance sheet of the company, with which we are all familiar with, but it actually looks at 5 other different types of capital. Manufactured capital, intellectual capital, human capital, social and relationship capital, and natural capital. Instead of looking at one single capital, integrated reporting looks at the 6 different types of capital. With, of course, financial capital sitting right on top. But besides that, there are 5 other different types of capitals which are dealt in the context and phenomena of integrated reporting. Manufactured capital, intellectual capital, human capital, social and relationship capital, and natural capital. What is financial capital? The funds available to the company. So you can either have debt capital or you can have equity capital. You can have various instruments of debt. You can have various variations of equity. But basically, financial capital can be broadly classified into 2 categories only. You have debt capital and you have equity capital. Manufactured capital is the products that the company manufactures. Manufactured physical objects or the machines that the company makes use of. Human capital is about people, about human beings, their skills, their experience, their motivations, Are they able to innovate? Are they innovative? Intellectual capital in terms of brands, in terms of logo, patents, copyright, trademarks, which provide a cutting edge and will provide a competitive edge advantage to a company over its competitors. Then you have natural capital, water, land, minerals, forests, biodiversity, and the entire ecosystem. Then you have social capital, the various institutions, UNO, GATT, WTO, BRICS Bank, Asian Development Bank. How do you deal with them? Various NGOs operating in a market. How do you deal with them? Self-support groups. How do you deal with them? Institutions and relationships established within and between each community or group of stakeholders and other networks to enhance individual and collective well-being. This is the key difference between historical corporate reporting and integrated reporting, that besides looking at only the financial capital, we look at 5 other different types of capital by which we are able to capture the entire story about the company, its vision, its strategy, its performance, its economic aspect, its social aspect, its environmental aspect. Everything gets captured when you look at all these 6 capitals together. So how will the company create value? This is not clearly visible, probably this diagram. I picked it up from the IIRC website only. So we have 6 different types of capital: financial, manufactured, intellectual, human, social, and relationship natural. And these capitals, they interact with the outside world, external environment, and thus create value over a period of time. Not only create value, but preserve value. Creation of value is important, but if you are not able to preserve that, no use. You must create value, you must preserve that value, and you must enhance that value going forward. Continuously, you must be able to enhance the value in a sustained manner. The complete picture is when all these 6 capitals, they interact and are used for mission and vision, for analysis of risks and management of risks, for strategy formulation and resource allocation. They interact with the basic business model, which I told you must be very, very resilient. And then, of course, it looks at what has been the performance of the company and also what is likely to be the future outlook of the company. There are certain guiding principles of integrated reporting. It's not only theory that we are talking today. Even SEBI started off with the concept of business responsibility reporting, BRR, as part of clause 55 of the LODR, listing obligation and disclosure requirements, way back in 2011-2012, when the Ministry of Corporate Affairs came out with NVG, National Voluntary Guidelines on Social, Economic, and Environmental Factors. SEBI has now mandated integrated reporting to be mandatory, at least on a trial basis, for the top 500 companies of India on a market cap basis. But actual number is, actually in India as of today, only 46 companies are preparing integrated report on an annual basis. Slowly and slowly, the concept is catching up. But as of now, out of 500 companies which were given the idea of coming out with IR by SEBI, only 46 companies as of now are actually preparing integrated reports in India. You can Google out, find out report, because after this session, I'm sure interest will generate within your mind to know more about it, to actually have a look at how does an IR report look like. So you can very well find out there are 46 reports available on the Google, different companies of India which are preparing integrated reports. So there are certain guidelines, just as you have guidelines for compilation of the annual report for the listed companies every year. What all must be the contents, what should be the format, what should be the guiding principles. Similarly, there are certain guiding principles for integrated reporting also. First is strategic focus. The focus of historical corporate report is on past performance, whereas the focus of Integrated report is on strategic. What is the strategy of the company? Is it good enough for the company to be able to realize its vision going forward? Is it good enough to be able to create and sustain value over a period of time? And is it good enough to be able to ensure rational and optimum allocation of resource utilization? Second principle is connecting the dots, connectivity of information. That means you must connect the financial information with the non-financial information. That's how we'll be able to weave the complete story about the functioning of the company, not only in the past, but also reflecting the present and also sharing a vision of how the company is likely to perform in future. That can happen only when you are able to connect the dots together. That's what I said. It looks at future, short term, medium term, long term. What the company is likely to face, how the company is likely to then control the dynamism and the dynamic factors of the environment. The integrated reporting is based upon future orientation. It is responsive to the expectations and needs of information of the stakeholders. The kind of historical reporting system that we have in prevalence today, it was never thought from the point of view of the stakeholders. उनको क्या information चाहिए, ये सोच के तो आपने annual report नहीं बनाते. You don't prepare your corporate historical annual report based upon what kind of information do the stakeholders need. You prepare it based upon the guidelines provided by companies like SEBI, LODR. That's where the difference in integrated reporting. In integrated reporting, you have to first identify who are my stakeholders, what kind of information do they want about my business, and then start writing out your report, providing to them all the information from different dimensions: natural, societal, economic performance, strategy, vision, risk. Provide all that information which your stakeholders desire so that you are responsive to the needs and expectations of the stakeholders. It is concise. I mean, that's where the focus of IIRC is. IIRC is not saying make it a 200-page report, because if it is too voluminous, it's likely to use its utility. Nobody is going to go through that 200-page annual report, you know. So it has to be very, very concise, and that's the beauty. How do you write everything down to just a few pages? You can't obviously put any number, but maybe just about 30 pages, maybe about 50 pages, that's all. You capture everything about the strategy, its connection with vision, its connection with performance, its connection with value creation. How do you reflect all that, the financial and the non-financial, within just about 30, 40, 50 pages? So that the answer is provided. Materiality principle. You must pick up only those facts which are material. Now, of course, you can't define what is material, because what is material for one company may not be material for another company. What is significant for a company may be just insignificant for some other company. You got to identify your own benchmark and your own parameters of what is material and what is not material. And the center point here is reliability. The kind of information that you provide in the integrated reporting, how do you ensure that the information is reliable, which can be relied upon by the that can be relied upon, so that that can be relied upon, and then investors can make their own decisions. Then we have, what are the IR contents? Integrated report, what are the possible contents? Organizational overview and business model. You must indicate in the report what is the organizational overview and the business model of the company. That is, what does the organization do and how does it create and sustain value in the short run, or in the medium run, or in the long run. Operating context, including risks and opportunities. What are the circumstances under which the organization operates, including the key resources under which the organization operates, including the key resources and relationships on which it depends, and the key risks and opportunities that it faces. What are the strategic objectives to achieve those objectives? Where does the organization want to go, and how is it going to get there? What is the company's governance structure, and how does the governance structure of the company support the strategic objectives of the organization, and how does the executive compensation, the compensation being paid to the top brass or the key managerial personnel of the company, is linked with the performance of the company and the governance of the company? Performance. How has the organization performed against its strategic objectives and related strategies? Now, just think once again over here. Is this kind of a performance reflected in the current annual report? No. You only get numbers. What is the profit or loss? What is the size of the balance sheet? What is the cash flow statement? But if somebody wants to check how has the organization performed against its strategic objectives and the related strategies, that answer is not provided by the current historical annual report, and therefore integrated report becomes very important to look at. Future outlook. What opportunities, challenges, and uncertainties is the organizational likely to encounter in achieving the strategic objectives, and what are the resulting implications for its strategies and future performance? The current corporate reporting model of annual report is backward looking. It gives you a rear view, what happened in the last 1 year. But actually, investors would rather need information not only about the past performance of the company, but future outlook as well. Integrated reporting provides a future outlook or future integration. So there are some guidelines also given by Integrated Reporting Council as to what all should you cover in your report. You should talk about environmental issues, talk about climate change, energy, talk about economic system, services, talk about local environmental impacts. You must also include a para on health and safety issues. What measures have been adopted by the company with regard to workforce protection, with regard to product health safety, with regard to process safety, social economic issues, community and society. How does the operations of the company impact the society, the local content, the human rights, business ethics, very important, and then labor practices, how they are implemented within the company. Now, then there is a bifurcation. These are broad categories. And I said, first point, if you say climate change and energy, that's the broad heading. Within this, there are certain indicators. There are 4 indicators. What are these indicators? E1, E2, E3, E4. Greenhouse gas emissions, energy usage, alternate energy sources, flared gas. When we talk about local environmental impacts, what do we talk about here? Air emissions, spills into the environment, discharge of water. So these are sub-parameters for each one of these factors. Climate change, 4 indicators, ecosystem, 2 indicators, workforce protection, 3 indicators. Similarly, there is a whole lot of information which is a guidance provided by International Integrated Reporting Council as to how to prepare your integrated report. These are sub-points. Health and workforce protection. You look for workforce participation. Do they really participate in management decision making or not? What steps does the company take to ensure workforce health? What about occupational injury and illness? Product safety, product stewardship, process safety. What action has been taken by the company with a view to ensuring safety of the processes which are happening within the factory? Community and the society. To what extent does the company engage with the local community, and how does the company's operations impact the local community? Social investment. Is the company making CSR investments or not, which is a mandatory law in India, Section 135 of the Companies Act 2013, where every company is mandated to spend 2% of its profits every year on CSR. What kind of social investment you are making for the betterment of the lives of the people around the place where the company is operating its plant? Local content. Are you giving preferences to local people for employment? Are you using local raw material which is locally available in a particular place? Are you using local suppliers, local network of people who deal with the company's operations? You must take care of human rights. Human rights, due diligence, human rights with regard to suppliers, security and human rights. You must give due regard to the principles of human rights. Business ethics and transparency. Of course, corruption has to be prevented. In India, in the Companies Act 2013, also we have a vigil mechanism or the whistleblower policy, which every listed company is required to prepare on a mandatory basis. Preventing corruption is one of the important aspects of business ethics and transparency. Not only within the company, but as well preventing corruption involving business partners, suppliers, vendors, maybe even customers. You got to prevent corruption not only within the company, but also with involving business partners. Transparency, public advocacy, labor protection, workforce diversity. There should be no discrimination with regard to employment on gender, caste, or anything of that sort. Your workforce engagement, you must engage with the workers working in the company as a close-knit family, as a social system within which, of course, there is a hierarchy. There are some people who are at the higher level as compared to workers and laborers, but then nonetheless, it's a social system. Every organization is a social system, and therefore, you must deal with everyone within the organization as a human being. How much effort is being made by the company to ensure training and development of your workforce? And then what kind of grievance system you have? Howsoever good care the company might be taking with regard to workforce measures, there are bound to be instances and cases where somebody is going to have a grievance against someone else. Maybe some other co-employee, maybe your boss, maybe your subordinate. There must be some kind of a reporting system and some kind of grievance redressal system by which the grievances can be resolved. And this system must be non-retaliatory. So, questions to be answered. Integrated reporting provides to you a unique story about the functioning of the company, where all the dots are supposed to be connected. The 6 capitals that we have, the financial capital, manufactured capital, human capital, social and relationship capital, natural capital, environmental capital. Then you have strategy, then you have vision, then you have a business model, and everything else has to be done within the context of social, environment, and economic context within which the company operates. So there has to be a story built around those numbers by connecting the various dots, but it may not be any particular sequence. You can probably talk about social factors. The para in social factors could be a para before the environmental factors. In some other report, it may be later and subsequent to the environmental factors, because IIRC has not really provided a particular format for the report, but it says that you may, it's a suggestive model, you may include these kind of things in your integrated report. You must also talk about overview of the external environment within which the company is operating. You should provide enough information to the readers about the governance structure and the governance architecture of the company. You must also provide details about the business model. You must also provide details about the risks that the company is exposed to and the mitigation measures adopted by the company. What is the vision? What is the strategy of the company about resource allocation? What is the performance, not only past, but what is the future outlook? And then the basis of all the above points. How are you writing all that? Whatever you would have written in the previous 5-6 points, that's the most critical aspect. The information has got to be reliable. It has to be contextual. How do you ensure that? By ensuring that all this information is provided in the integrated report on the basis of some reliable indicator, some reliable source from where the information is picked up. So far, so good. Very interesting concept, very useful, looks to be very useful. Then why? When SEBI has mandated, at least on a voluntary basis, that top 500 companies of India should come out and prepare draft integrated report, why only 46 companies have come forward so far? There are certain barriers to integrated report. It's not all that very easy. First important thing is knowledge. How many people are aware about the concept of integrated reporting? How many people are there with expertise who can actually prepare and generate an integrated report? I think education, advocacy, spreading of information is the first important main challenge that's being felt not only in India but the world over with respect to adoption and implementation of integrated reporting. People don't know about this concept. People are not aware how to weave a story around the numbers. People don't know what is integrated thinking. In concept, fine, but how do we actually apply that to connect the various dots of the company? People are really not sure about that. Then there is a conceptual confusion. Integration means different things to different people. Some people understand, Baba, SEBI is saying prepare integrated report. So what we will do, we have a 150-page annual report. We will add 10 pages more in that. Let's make it 160 pages report and add a few paras regarding whatever they are talking about. So a report becomes integrated. It's not as simple as that. It may be combined with the annual report. IIRC doesn't say it necessarily has to be a separate report, but nonetheless, it must fulfill its complete purpose in terms of disclosing what are the recommendatory disclosures provided for or suggested by IIRC, which we have discussed in the previous slides. Of course, there are difficulties in terms of criteria for giving weightage to different indicators of performance. How much weightage should you give to intangible factors working within the company? This is something which is going to be very, very subjective. If two different people prepare an integrated report of the same company, I think they are going to come out with a different version altogether. Then in many cases, there may even be lack of data. What kind of environmental impact your company is having by operating in a marketplace? You would like to write about that. You would like to report about that. But unfortunately, the relevant data may not be easily accessible or the relevant data may not be available in a marketplace. That materiality was one of the principles we discussed in the previous slide. The problem is, how do we define the threshold? What may be material for a company may not be material for some other company. How do we ensure that there is kind of consistency in the consideration of the materiality concept? Unit of analysis. Each company is going to have each company will have to choose a different unit of measurement of performance, a different matrices altogether. Then for definition of responsibilities, who is responsible for preparation of the integrated report? Is it the CFO? Is it the company secretary? Or do you have someone else who has a qualification in integrated reporting? Well, as of now, there is no course going on. In fact, it would be a good idea if CMA Institute Board of Advanced Studies comes out with a short-term 3-month program, 4-month program on integrated reporting. This could probably be becoming another dimension for CMAs in practice. They can start helping out companies to prepare the integrated report because we are quite familiar with preparing performance report, which earlier used to be part of the cost audit report, which is no longer there. So we know how to look at various parameters. We are the best people available in a marketplace to become leaders in guiding the company in actually preparing the integrated report. So probably I will maybe write a formal mail to Board of Advanced Studies CMA Institute to probably come out with a short-term certificate course, 3 months, 4 months, where probably I can help out in whatever capacity I can help. And we can probably have this kind of course going on for the CMA members. Then another problem is assurance. Well, I said the information has to be reliable. The information has to be credible. Somebody writes an integrated report. How do we ensure that whatever he has written there, whatever story he has tried to weave around the numbers, it is reliable and credible? How do we assure? That means there has to be some kind of a provision of, just as we get a statutory audit done for the annual account, there has to be some kind of an assurance to be provided by a third party. I'm told that Big Four, they are doing it the world across for many of the companies, that somebody writes the integrated report and then they take over the assurance part of it. They do a due diligence. They go through the integrated report all over again. They look at the assumptions. They look at the projections. They look at the language and thus certify the report to be a good enough report or not a quality report. So assurance is a challenge. Who will do the assurance? What kind of qualification is required for becoming an assurer with regard to integrated report? There also, I think CMAs should take a lead, should first possess competence, then only we can become leader. We all must get educated in this new line. We must acquire competence in this line by looking at a few integrated reports, not only of India, but also of the foreign countries. And then probably we can write to MCA through our president, honorable president, and then request them to empanel us as assurers for compilation of integrated reports. I'm sure the other two institutes, the chartered accountants and the company secretaries, have not taken any interest in this area so far. They have not done any work in this area so far. So probably we can take a lead. Challenges, there are some further challenges also reporting on thorny issues. I mean, there are obviously in every company going to be certain issues, some inside issues of the company, which you would not like to make public. Now, how to ensure that on one hand, you are credible, you are trustworthy, and on the other hand, you are not going to disclose that information to the outsider. That's a challenge that's there in IR. Ensuring a holistic picture. How do you aggregate the financial and the non-financial numbers? How do you ensure that you have the right threshold for determining what is material and what is not material? You must achieve a balanced reporting. Indicate what is the true SWOT. SWOT is strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for the company. Do a balanced reporting. Don't over focus on any one particular aspect, but do a balanced reporting by considering all the different aspects and dimensions of the functioning of the company. You must also provide comparison with sectors and industries. Don't look at a company as a standalone company. In the integrated report, if you are also able to provide a comparative data of different sectors and different companies or industries operating within that particular sector, I think that's hugely going to improve the utility, credibility, and reliability of the integrated report. And then taking responsibility for performance by creating a value chain. These are some of the important challenges which are there in IR. Over 1,500 organizations across the world complete and compile integrated reporting. 83% of the CEOs and the CFOs, they believe that adopting integrated reporting would help them deliver success to their organization. They can create more value, higher value in their organizations by looking at and adopting integrated reporting. That is belief of 83% of the CEO, CFO, MD level people. 2,000 organizations are participating in the IR network worldwide. IIRC, International Integrated Reporting Council, is a whole mix of NGOs, corporate entities, regulators, accounting practitioners, standard setters, and 2,000 people are participating in the IR network. Over 300 companies in Japan, a very small country, but over 300 companies in Japan have adopted the concept of integrated reporting. If you want to know more about integrated reporting, there is a lot of material available on the Google. There are lots of these websites, blogs, news, guidance surveys, sample reports which are available so that you can increase your knowledge by looking at these kind of resources later on. Integrated reporting is also known as corporate responsibility report. Some people call it sustainability reporting. Some people call it environmental, social, and governance reporting. Ultimately, What's in a name? That which we can call a rose. By any other name would smell as sweet. I mean, a rose is a rose by whatever name you may call it. So you call it integrated reporting, or you call it CSR reporting, or you call it financial, non-financial, corporate social responsibility reporting. The concept remains the same, that we must go beyond the financial numbers and provide information to the stakeholder with regard to strategy, business model, vision of the company, and then connect that with value creation in the short term, medium term, long term, and then look at the context of social, economic, and environmental parameters within which the company operates. What is the way forward? Boards, the board of directors, will increasingly recognize integrated and sustainability reporting as a valuable strategic management tool going forward. Boards will pay more attention to the accuracy and reliability of integrated reporting. Companies will take a systematic approach to integrating stakeholders' interest into decision making. Companies definitely need to communicate more clearly, openly, and effectively with investors about how they plan to grow, how they plan to create, preserve, and enhance value going forward in a sustainable manner. And there is an imperative need for the companies to connect the dots better in their reporting so that the balance of risk and opportunity is clearer. Integrated reporting, the way of the future. That's going to be the future format of corporate reporting. It might take another 5 years in India also to catch it up in real sense, but going forward over the next decade or so, this is going to be the way the corporate reporting will happen. This is the time when CMAs must gather enough knowledge, must become competent enough to be handled, understand the basic concept, and then start advising, handling companies' integrated reporting aspect. And this can be a new area, new dimension where CMAs can really contribute in the corporate world. The message for the various companies is very clear. Even for those companies for which it is not voluntarily mandated by SEBI, that means besides those companies which fall in the top 500 list as per the market cap, there is a time, there is a call, shape up or shape out. This is the time when you must start thinking towards integrated reporting. Otherwise, you'll be left behind. You'll be left behind by your competitors. You will not be able to achieve your goals. You will not be able to sustain in the marketplace unless you are able to shape up. Means take up, start educating your people, start getting trained in the aspect of preparing integrated reporting. This is the time when you need to shape up. Otherwise, shape out. You'll be left behind. Message is very, very loud in today's world. Integrated reporting in future is going to be not only a means to survive, but actually it's going to be a strategy to prosper. If you want to prosper, if you really want to grow on a sustainable manner going forward in this marketplace, which is highly dynamic, which is highly VUCA, then there is no other way out, but you have to adopt the concept, philosophy, and architecture of integrated reporting. Let's adopt integrated reporting by choice before we have to do it by force. By force, by regulatory force, SEBI mandating it for all the companies. Besides the regulatory force, the force of the stakeholders, I think, is even stronger than the regulatory force. If people, investors, if they start demanding from the companies, we want to have an integrated report from you, I think regulators will have to then mandate preparation of integrated report on a compulsory basis. So more than the regulators, it is the force of stakeholders' expectation, stakeholders' demand, stakeholders' desire that companies will need to fix and we need to meet into. So we need to adopt integrated reporting by choice on a voluntary basis, even if it is not made mandatory by SEBI, before we have to do it by force. Thank you very much. This is where I would like to end my formal presentation, but then I'll be too pleased to handle a few questions if the audience has in this particular discussion. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Gupta sir. This is the new dimension. And when I was listening to you, one thing came to my mind. I'm not against any company, but recently, whatever happened in case of Adani Group
Yeah,
stocks.
yeah, yeah.
So till date, no one is know whether all their securities are in ban or it is not in ban,
I
because
know.
the regulatory itself is saying no, it is not, but their website is showing yes, it is in ban, and till the date nobody come to know that exactly what is there. So
Absolutely.
looking after this, what you told is absolutely correct, because the common people, those who are really investing, they don't go to this nitty gritty at all. So this is a really new dimension. So
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
don't have any specific question, but this case I could able to correlate.
absolutely. Very, very relevant. Very relevant, sir. So the idea of this particular session was the concept is slightly new. So by giving you this kind of a brief presentation for 1.5 hours, so it would at least make you start to think about integrated reporting further. And you will read more about this in future. And this is one area where no other professional has yet ventured. If we CMAs take the lead in this area, this can open up new professional opportunities for all.
Yes, yes, definitely. So I would like to request other members. This is really good avenue made available,
Yeah.
and the legend is in front of us. Please ask your questions so that Gupta sir can proceed further.
The concept.
Sir, this
Yes,
is
sir.
Pradeep here.
Yes,
Not a question as such, but just a thought. Ki,
yes, sir. Yes,
these integrated reports, not only from compliance or other perspectives, but these reports will help businessmen in running their businesses as well.
absolutely,
Because this integrated report, as I understand, is they will not tell you what is your profitability, but they will tell you how to earn the profit and what are
absolutely,
the drivers for profit and sustainability.
absolutely, sir. Absolutely. That's the difference. So it's not going to replace the corporate reporting that we do right now in terms of the financial reporting. It's going to be an additional thing. Now, either you may merge it with the annual report or you prepare a separate report altogether, a different document. That's up to the company. IIRC does not mandate either a separate report or a consolidated report. But that additional information which will be provided in the integrated reporting part of non-financial nature and connecting all the dots together, that's what is going to be really useful for the various investors as well as the companies themselves to be able to know how they have performed over a period of time.
Sir, one question.
Yes, sir.
As of now, the chartered accountants or cost accountants have roles with respect to their own financial accounting audit and cost audits. So, but coming to the integrated reporting, it seems a lot of functionalities are included, not only limited to financials, but
Absolutely,
marketing,
absolutely.
human resources, environment, engineering. So it is a culmination of multiple disciplines.
Absolutely, absolutely. But then somebody has to take a lead. I mean,
Yeah,
you take an assignment in your name for preparation of an IR. You may not be competent to handle the entire part of it, but then you can engage associates. That's going to be the future, where you're going to have people coming together from multiple disciplines and then trying to work out and carve out a story out of the whole numbers and prepare the integrated report. But then you have to somebody has to take a lead. So why leave it to the engineers? Why leave it to the other people? CMS must take the lead in this particular direction. That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
Sir, I have one point.
Yes,
Of course, this is just out of box thinking.
yes,
You
sir.
know, you are also the CEO for RVO,
That's okay.
and
Sir.
see the valuation profession. Just as we have the discount for lack of marketing or discount for lack of control kind of a concept, if some kind of a premium, a token premium, let us say iota of premium, if they can be added in the very principles of the valuations that we talk, we talk of so many international
Yes.
valuation standards,
Yes.
etc., etc.
Yes.
If some, an iota of premium is added towards integrated reporting, towards the
Absolutely.
fundas that you have spoken, it would
Absolutely.
definitely create a lot of interest in the startups also, sir, to begin with.
Absolutely.
As you said, it need not confine to 40 companies of India or 1,500 entities global across the globe. A startup company with a private limited company can start doing that.
Absolutely.
In fact, this is one thought that I thought you would definitely
Absolutely.
further
Sir, this
speak
is
over it.
actually already being done internationally, not in India, but internationally, progressive companies, progressive consultants, while doing valuation of the company, they are already putting some kind of a premium on ESG factors,
Oh,
environmental,
lovely,
social,
lovely.
and governance factor. And to make you further aware, International Valuation Standards Council is working out draft of valuation standard for calculation of ESG value. They're
Super,
already
super.
working on the draft, which probably will hit the website within the next 4 or 5 months kind of thing. And to
Very,
also
very,
inform all the members present here, I have
very
been
interesting, sir.
nominated
Very
to
interesting.
membership and standard recognition board of International Valuation Standards Council in my individual capacity, not as nominee of RVO, in my individual capacity. And this was by way of open competition worldwide. This is first nomination going from India.
Yeah, definitely, sir. Continuing to the last question, because it is a multidisciplinary reporting.
Yeah,
So,
that's right.
so even we have this multidisciplinary firms
Partnerships,
that are coming up,
MDP,
right? But
yeah,
we
that's
are
coming up now.
right. But we are restricting ourselves with few of the professionals, and still the clarity is not there from engineering profession or other professionals that
I know.
we need to integrate with. So probably there should be some what you call allowance to include
Yes.
other professionals also, at least from integrated reporting purposes and these kind of
Yes, please.
assignments.
Yes, please. Yes, please. Sir, the council has placed the draft of the MDP policy, multidisciplinary partnership policy, on the website of the institute, and they are seeking comments on that. So you all can provide your comments over there because it's still not finalized by the council. It's a draft which they have prepared, and all of you are free to give your comments on that. There's a very good idea that we must also get associated with architects, engineers. Why not? Because when the integrated reporting thing comes, then we'll have to coordinate and collaborate with very many different people.
Yeah.
Not only from the reporting stream, but very many different people.
Yes, sir.
So I would suggest you please give suggestions on that draft, which is there on the website of the institute.
Yes, sir. I have gone through that, but only thing is we have some restrictive clauses that it
I
is
know.
not allowing
So
other
give your
professionals.
suggestions.
Yeah.
Give your suggestions, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Any more questions, please? Anybody have any question?
No, I think there's no other.
I think this is a new subject. Maybe we can have another session after about a month or so, where I can actually give you a demonstration of how integrated report is compiled. By that time, people would have also learned more. They would have Googled out, they would have searched some information that would be useful. This is the first time some of the people are getting exposed to this idea. They may not be able to ask the question. Maybe we have a repeat session or advanced level session after about 1.5 to 2 months.
Yes, and with example, then it will be very informative.
We can do it.
Yeah,
After 2 months or so. Yeah.
correct.
Thank you.
Yes. So Sagar.
Sheikh sir will give the vote of thanks actually.
Okay. So Hanif Sheikh, he is the faculty at Pimpri Chinchwad Akodi chapter, and very, I can say,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
always attending the CEPs, and he is academician, practitioner. He is lawyer also. So he's a multitasking personality.
Wow, okay.
So
Okay.
I would like to request Hanif sir kindly give the vote of thanks.
Sure, sir. Sure.
Yes. Am I audible to all?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. First of all, I must thank the managing committee for having such a wonderful topic and wonderful faculty resource person. Gupta sir, I think no, I don't have words to describe. Okay. So, and before I forget, I would urge Gupta sir, please share the presentation with all the.
I will do that. I will do that.
Yes. It really shows sir's depth of knowledge presentation, everything from all aspects. It was a top class presentation, and
Thank
I would urge, in fact, our managing committee. In fact, first I thank them, and I would urge, in fact, our managing committee members to organize more such programs.
Yes,
Which is
sir.
it was really immensely value addition,
Sure, sir.
immensely value beyond imagination, beyond imagination,
Thank
beyond
you.
imagination. So I really, on behalf of PCA chapter, managing committee, all my professional colleagues, I thank Gupta sir from the bottom of my heart
Sir,
for
thank you.
presenting such a wonderful topic, and may we have more such CEPs in future.
Thank
With
you.
these words, I thank you, sir, once again.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mohanty sir. Past president also joined us. It was a great pleasure having you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, everybody.
And to all friends, good evening.
Yes, Suresh.
Many, many thanks to the organizers.
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
I remember when this chapter was formed,
Yeah,
what are the difficulties? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the situation did not allow me to visit. Let us see. In near future, when situation improves, I would like to visit your chapter.
Yes, sir. Actually, one memory just came to my mind that Mohanty sir become president, and then he gone through very hard time due to his health issues. Lot of pressure is there, but from all those things, he come out as like a phoenix bird, and then again started the work. So, sir, thank you very much for support.
Friend Pradeep, that are the professional hazards.
Yes.
Because we more concentrate to get one thing always from 1960.